What's going on, guys? MariK here, back with another Dragon Ball Super video. Today we're going to be speculating on the new Unison Warriors that were revealed in the recent distributor links that Bandai did not want us to see, coming up for the upcoming Set 10 Divine Multiverse, I believe it was called. And these cards they look like they function similar to Planeswalkers from the game Magic the Gathering. It's a game I used to play over a decade ago, so my knowledge on that game is really shitty. But I get my buddy Pondeezy here, much smarter than I am, much better at Magic the Gathering than I am, that's going to help us try and figure out how Planeswalkers work in Magic the Gathering and how these Unison cards could work in Dragon Ball Super.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here to explain all that. I wouldn't say better at Magic, just a sucker enough to have played it for way too much time. Yeah.
I stopped 10 years ago, and you kept up with it, but
it was part of the job.
Oh, that's fair. That's 100% fair. All right, so since you're better with Magic than me, explain to them how Planeswalkers work in Magic before we try and translate that over to Super.
All right, so with Magic, these Planeswalker cards, they're going to be it's odd because they're not like a creature or anything like that, or a battle card. They're going to be like another player that's in play. So in Magic, when you go to attack, you either attack a player, which they could choose to block those attacks to stop them from coming through, or you can attack any Planeswalkers they have to try and knock out those Planeswalkers. And when I say knock out, they have their own health that they come into play with. So that health determines, how much damage they can take before they die. So they also have different abilities that you can use once per turn during your turn. You can't do it at what's called instant speed, where you can just do it anytime you want. You can only do it, when you have the opportunity to play a creature card or something, or in Super, I guess, play a battle card. So from there, they usually have 3 loyalty abilities. It's what they're called, involving their health. Sometimes it's 2 abilities. Sometimes they have 4. Looks like from what we're seeing here, they're going to have, or at least this cooler has 3 abilities that it's going to be able to use. So if we were to look at it in a Planeswalker sort of way, those abilities have a plus, they have a 0, or they have a minus. And not all of them have each of those 3. So with plus ability, this all affects their loyalty, which is their health. So when you plus it, you're activating that ability, and you loyal to them. When you do 0, it doesn't affect their health positively or negatively, and you use that ability. And then the same thing with the minus ability. It reduces their health, and you can even use that to kill off your own Planeswalker if it has enough health to use for that ability, and still get that activated ability there. And a lot of these, they're going to have, players call them a lot of things. They're going to be ultimate abilities or bombs, something crazy that they can do with usually a high amount of loyalty and have some game-breaking effect that can either win you the game on the spot, or more often than not, as Wizards has toned everything down, they're going to put you in a really good position to win the game. So, let's see, with Soren Vampire Lord, for example, this guy, he's one of the more toned down ones. He's definitely not going to be super strong or anything like that, but he's going to get the job done. So this is going to be one of the less exciting Planeswalkers that comes out of a starter set. Nothing wrong with that, but what he's going to do, his plus ability, that's +1. Up to 1 target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So in Magic turns, that gives a dude to attack. That might equate to 500 or 1,000. 500, 1,000, 5,000 or 10,000 power on a battle card. He's going to have a second ability here. It's -2. Deals 4 damage to any target you gain 4 life. So it's just going to burn something. It's going to burn a dude. It's going to burn your face. And you're just going to gain some life to benefit that. There's really not a life gain mechanic like that in Super that I'm aware of, but that could be something down in the future. Yeah, no, that's something crazy. That was in the old Bandai card game, or Bandai. Oh goodness, what were their names?
I don't remember. You're talking about the Score series, right?
Yeah, the super old one. There was the original, and then there's the reboot, and then I
The
can't remember
the
that
reboot
company's name.
the reboot was Panini, right?
Panini. Okay, there we go. So Panini. Let's just say Panini. So they had like a recovery mechanic. It seemed kind of insane, but that's not the case here. Lastly, on Soren, his bomb. It's -8 ability. Until end of turn, each vampire you control gains the ability to tap it to gain control of target creature. So that's pretty wild because it lets you steal your opponent's dudes, and they don't get them back. Usually with magic cards that steal stuff, you'll sometimes get them back at the end of the turn. That's not the case here. Granted, you can't attack with them immediately or anything like that. You're set up well to they have to deal with that, or they're probably going to die the next turn. So all in all, you'll see some different range of abilities on these kind of cards that they're going to have small abilities or larger abilities depending on how much mana you sink into them for magic. So back to what we have here with this cooler card. There's no real cost on it. It's kind of X'd out. We don't know if that's intentional or if that's actually the case where you have to actually spend energy into it. And maybe it gets a representation of so many counters based on how much energy you put in, or maybe he has a starting off amount that it comes with because of the different numbers that we see on the card. So we also see that it has, no power whatsoever. That might be a sensor that's been done for the time being, or like a placeholder. We're also seeing, what looks like the loyalty abilities, which is why a lot of people are speculating on this. Kind of like the Planeswalker, there's like a 0, and then there's a -5, then we have a -10. So there might be some abilities where you have to spend that much energy that you have, or this card might have its own health total that it pulls from, or something like that. It'd be hard to translate it that way. So the way it looks like it might have an ability that can be used once per turn, and you have to do something to enable that ability. There's some sort of cost associated with that here.
So what I'm thinking these are going to be more like I know they mentioned that they're going to function similar to second leaders, but I feel like they're going to be more like support cards and less like a card that's actually going to try and be an actual battle card is what I'm thinking.
That might be the case here. That it couldn't even necessarily be that it has, like a set amount of power and it's going to be another leader card effectively. It could just have 0 power and be there functioning as a support card, indicating that you maybe can't attack with it or something like that.
Well, also, and I forgot to mention to you this too. And I don't really know how relevant it could be to the new Unison cards, but with set 10, they're also increasing the deck limit from 50 to 60.
Oh yeah, I saw that. It's what, 51 to 61, counting your leader card plus the core of your deck.
Yes, and it's anything in between, so it's not going to be a set number.
Okay, yeah. I know with a lot of card games, you typically don't want to go towards the higher end of things for the sake of consistency and drawing all of your good cards that you want to run multiples of and so on. But I know with certain card games, there are certain decks that need to have those extra cards for an alternate win condition, or like with another card game, they may, dig through their deck so fast there might be a number of moving pieces that they need to set up in a specific zone somewhere to go off in this really long combo, or just set up value generation that way.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's going to be like I'm wondering it seems too much of a coincidence for them to be making that kind of change at the same time they're introducing these new kinds of cards. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
intentional or if it's because I mean, like you said, we don't know what the energy of these cards is going to be or how the loyalty tokens and stuff would work. But if it has something to do with the deck count, I don't know because unless they're trying to draw the game out to have it to where we have more because most games are done by like turn 5 or 6. You're not hitting as nearly as many energy in this game as you are mana.
well, I don't know. Magic has some slower formats, some quicker formats. Maybe they do want to increase the play. I know this sounds like a sin, but maybe they want to increase the amount of time that rounds of a game are played. I know some people enjoy faster games, especially for tournament sake. Back when I was playing Super, there was a lot of a lot going on about the amount of time involved in a round and everything, and getting out of larger scale tournaments on time and all that. It was a show, but
Oh, and it definitely still is. There's still issues of how long games can take, but I don't know if obviously Super takes a lot away from Magic. I mean, with the energy system is a clear take on their mana system, although slightly different because anything can be energy versus lands and check lands and stuff like that.
yeah, there's some comparison here, but I don't know if it's necessarily like a Magic based thing, because there's granted that's the longest running card game that's had the most success. And definitely the resource system is something that's carried itself into a lot of other games. Um, like this one with the energy. You also had Kaijudo that had something similar. You had the Warcraft TCG. There's a ton of paper and digital card games that kind of run off of some similar energy system or similar resource system, because it's just done so well and it's a good balance to a game. As opposed to maybe another card game I don't really want to talk about that doesn't have a resource system and everything seems free, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's fair. But with this card in particular, this is I don't think there's anything this could be almost like a copy and paste of besides a Planeswalker. I cannot think of anything in any other card game that this looks like it would function similar to.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a broad experience with a lot of card games. Granted, there's some that I'm missing, like you got your Buddy Fight and um, Argent Saga and so on. There's a lot of different ones that I haven't personally touched on, and there might be something comparable in another game. But as far as the major ones go that a lot of people are familiar with, there's nothing that's really like Planeswalkers that I've seen or experienced in other card games. And this might be something that's comparable. It's taking inspiration from that, but who knows? That's just speculation. Maybe it can end up being something entirely functionally different once we get some more information released. But from what we have now, it definitely looks like these could be functioning in a similar way that Planeswalkers to Magic are.
Well, and actually, with you kind of rekindling, wow, English, my memory on how planeswalkers work. What I'm actually thinking they might be doing with this, since you were talking about the loyalty thing adds to their life and such, which is I'm thinking that the X in the top, of course, is the energy cost, and I'm thinking that's probably just gonna be the same type of energy cost like every other card. But what I'm thinking is the power level at the bottom is probably what they would use. They'll probably decrease the power level when you use the different loyalty effects or whatever they'll call them in Super. Uh,
Hmm.
because like you were saying, you can effectively KO your own Planeswalker. And in Super, when the power level is reduced to zero, they auto die by the game mechanic. So I'm wondering if the abilities will lower the Unison card's power level, and then eventually it'll just hit zero and die, similar to like a Planeswalker would.
That could be true here. Now, if it does function similarly with like being there with your leader and being an alternative attack target with an alternative health pool than your own, then that seems a little odd too, because it's like, why would I ever go for that if I'm going to try and expedite the pace of the game unless that's a detrimental threat? To get rid of that, and I don't know, it's how would you equate the current power levels worth of damage to what you're doing to that if the health system, the way it works in here in Super, is a card based instead of like a points value based, unless they're introducing some new mechanic to take care of that.
I mean, they just do it to where, every like the one in the middle is -5, unless every number is like in increments of 1,000. So it'd be -5,000 the cooler's base power. So if he started at say 15, you use that one. Like you'd get to use that once. You could use the second one once as well, or you could use the third ability, the second ability 3 times before he dies. I don't. It with as little information as we got from that leak, it's hard to go off of.
Yeah, we really just have like a very rough template here.
But I mean, and with planeswalkers, you don't attack with them.
Right. They're something that aren't, involved in combat unless their name is Gideon. Which if you're familiar with Magic, you know what I'm talking about. Because Gideon's a weird one, but yeah, planeswalkers do not do any sort of combat. They don't attack. They don't get their hands dirty or anything like that. They usually let other creatures and things do that for them.
So I'm wondering, since they refer to these unison cards as like a second leader, but if they're going to function similar to planeswalkers, or well, which is just speculation here, anyways. I'm gonna guess you don't attack with them. They probably have like a clause like this card cannot attack, similar to like the Shenron leader.
Yeah,
And then, but he can still be attacked as an attack target, which, I mean, based on so if he was a 15,000 power, say their leader attacks 15k, no combo, no combo, he would just flat out die. In Magic, with the Planeswalkers, it would work similar, right? Because Soren has 4 health initially coming in.
hmm
So if something had swung for 4 damage, he would still die. Like, it's
yeah.
not.
Soren's gonna eat it there. Yeah,
So I don't know if maybe. Because I'm sure you remember, even from, early on, I'm not sure which set they started doing it, but a lot of the cards started saying, choose up to one of your opponent's leaders. And that wording to me always was like, okay, there must be giving us a second leader function, because why the fuck would it say choose up to one?
yeah, that's true. I've forgotten all about that. They have some very peculiar wording on some things that may or may not allude to something like you said, more than one leader. So they'll do something like that. Maybe they're like opening up design space that they might never use, or it might be something like going on with this cooler card here.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if they can attack it like a leader, or if they can even target it like they would a leader. Because there are certain cards that say, choose one of your opponent's leaders, and either switch it to rest mode or give it this much, minus 5,000 power or whatever. So I'm wondering if that would function the same way, and they can just KO your planeswalker or your unison card.
Yeah, or maybe like this could be functionally another leader card in a way that it does have its own set power. It's something maybe that much like a leader card can't be, interacted with or destroyed aside from attacking and you taking damage. So it might be an alternative to attack target where they can maybe that has lower power than your actual leader card, and they might be able to combo into it a little better to, take a life or something. So that may be another take on it, that it's literally just another leader card, except you cast it from your hand and it doesn't really go anywhere until the game's over, much like, your actual leader card. Um, so
Yeah,
it could be something like that too. There's definitely a lot of angles that this one could be approached from, because we just have literally a template and what they said that they're like, hey, they're like leader card number 2. So that's really all we have currently and all to operate on. But there's definitely going into it before reviewing this, thinking, it's probably like a planeswalker. But after talking about it a bit more, it could be a lot of other things that this could be as well. But definitely something akin to a planeswalker would be interesting to see how it plays out in another card game aside from Magic.
and can planeswalkers can still be targeted by like sorcery and stuff.
Yeah, so they're going to be treated as their own card type. So it has to be something that would reference a planeswalker or a permanent. So they're going to be cards like Hero's Downfall that says, for I think it's what double black one. It's an instant destroy target creature or planeswalkers. So that's something that could target it. Or they've actually done a text revision sort of things in the past year and a half, maybe 2, where now it says instead of deal 3 damage to target creature or player for like the quintessential lightning bolt card. Now it was assumed that you could target a player and redirect that to a planeswalker, but that's not player friendly wording and doesn't make a lot of sense initially because the card says player. So you would try to explain it like, well, planeswalker's kind of like another player, and that didn't really translate well. But Wizards finally got on that. Now they're saying it's deal 3 damage to any target if lightning bolt were eroded to today's wording. So now that covers, it's like, hey, I could target a creature, a player, or this new planeswalker card type, or if they release an entirely new targetable card type that can receive damage, that could cover that base as well.
So, do you think that if a card says, Okay, let's go with 1 because I'm riding the new hype train. 2, I know you played the deck extensively. Cell chain.
Mm-hmm.
You go into the 5-drop cell. He says, choose an opponent's battle card, KO it. Do you think that these Unison Warriors will be susceptible to cards that target battle cards, or do you think they'll be immune from that and they'll have to be targeted by a card that specifies a Unison Warrior?
See, that's something that right now, as it stands, with the way Namco Bandai has been about this, that we'd think one thing, and it's like, oh well, this actually works, and we're like, wait, really? Because of like a language barrier, misunderstanding, or mistranslation or something. So as it stands right now, from a being a very meticulous card player and overanalyzing things over the course of several years. So if something says battle card, for example, we don't have any confusion as to what that is right now because there's only, battle cards. There's no like specific variations where those cards have something entirely printed on them that don't say the word battle card on it. So with those Unison Warrior cards, um, as far as I'm aware, able to see, it seems like they're going to be treated like second leader cards is what they're calling it. So if it translates into what that actually means as a second leader card, then nothing might be able to interact with it except for stuff that interacts with leader cards. But if it's this entire Unison Warrior card type, if they choose to print that on the card instead of like leader, a battle card, then there's going to have to be some revisiting on some definitions and maybe some backpedaling on the way certain cards are worded, which probably wouldn't be the case. That'd be way too much of a headache. So they might be cards that have specific cards that say this affects a Unison Warrior if they choose to identify that card as specifically that. But the way I'm leaning towards it right now, based on what information we do have off the images and the image of Cooler itself, it's probably just going to be treated as another leader card and can be interacted as such for now, unless they start, coming up with this is a Unison Warrior and this is a specific list of rules it has to follow.
There's really not much else we can go off of until we get more official word from Bandai or until we get a little more trickled down to us from those distributors. So, but with that, we're going to wrap this video up here. I want to thank Mr. Pondeezy for coming out and helping us explain kind of how this new interaction might work for us in the future.
Oh yeah, well, thank you for having me. I really like explaining stuff, I guess. So anytime, I don't even have to know something, about a subject. If I'll look it up on Google if I need to, but no, this is something I've known for years, for better or worse. So yeah, definitely thank you for having me on here. It's been fun.
Yeah, I love doing discussion stuff like this. We'll probably do more of it more often. So you guys will hear Pondeezy around here and there in the future. But
I'm so sorry.
hey, they gotta listen to me. They're doing fine. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get the freak out of here, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video.